the unrelenting desecration of yet another cherished relic of the gaming pantheon, Dead Rising, a name once synonymous with the perfect blend of irreverent humor, zombie-slaying chaos, and unashamed indulgence in absurdity, now reduced to a watered-down version of itself. The Capcom of yore, a beacon of innovation, has seemingly surrendered to the inexorable tide of mediocrity under the guise of modernization. The audacity of censorship, a move as baffling as it is patronizing, speaks volumes of a deeper malady festering within the industry. Let's address the elephant in the room. Who exactly demanded these arbitrary alterations? Who clamored for the sanitization of Frank West's unapologetically raw world, where gallows humor, crude jokes, and hyperbolic scenarios served as the perfect foil to the otherwise grim apocalypse? Not the fans, certainly. No, it appears that the unseen hand of a nameless committee, likely populated by self-appointed arbiters of appropriate content, has decided on behalf of the masses that the original flavor was simply too pungent for modern sensibilities. But here lies the paradox. In their fevered pursuit of inclusivity and inoffensiveness, they have alienated the very audience that made Dead Rising a cult classic in the first place. The most egregious offense, of course, lies in the absurd reworking of the NPCs where once there was silk, now there is cotton, as though the very fabric of the game is being rewritten in real time, stripping it of its identity stitch by stitch. And the character of Larry, now a bizarrely whitewashed caricature of his former self, serves as a grotesque symbol of this senseless overhaul. Why the need to rewrite history, to neuter the quirks that made these characters memorable? The only logical conclusion is that someone within Capcom's localization team has been tasked with fixing problems that never existed in the first place. They are, as the saying goes, the solution in search of a problem. But this isn't just about one game, it's emblematic of a much larger, more insidious trend infecting the industry. One need look no further than the Star Wars Outlaws debacle, or the pervasive issue of content smoothing across myriad franchises. Games that once thrived on friction on the sharp edges that made them distinct are being rounded off, dulled, and homogenized in the name of mass appeal. What we are witnessing is the systematic erosion of artistic integrity, where every controversial element is sanded away in the futile hope of reaching a wider audience. Yet, ironically, this very sanitization is alienating the core fanbase, leaving us with products that feel more like soulless commodities than the passion-driven creations they once were. Capcom, once heralded as a pioneer, is now standing shoulder to shoulder with the very corporate behemoths it once defied, seemingly more concerned with ticking diversity checkboxes and avoiding the ire of hypersensitive social media mobs than with crafting compelling, boundary-pushing games. Their own public statements about promoting diversity in the workplace, while commendable in theory, reveal the true misstep. They are listening to the wrong voices. The professional complainers, those who would rather stifle creativity than allow even a whisper of controversy, have become the de facto gatekeepers of content. And let's not mince words. This neutering of games is part of a broader cultural agenda, one that seeks to desexualize, sanitize, and neuter the very art forms that thrive on the tension between the provocative and the playful. The removal of the erotica system in Dead Rising, while seemingly a minor alteration, is emblematic of this crusade. The decision to censor what was once a humorous, albeit risque, feature only serves to reinforce the chilling notion that creators are no longer in control of their own creations. Instead, they must bow to the whims of a vocal minority who will never be satisfied, no matter how much is altered to accommodate their sensitivities. This all brings us to a more philosophical question. When did we decide that games should be stripped of their bite, their teeth filed down into dull, toothless smiles? We live in a world where disembowelments and decapitations are acceptable fare in an M-rated game, yet the mere word pimp must be censored. Is this not the height of hypocrisy? How is it that in 2024, a game designed for adults is so afraid of offending sensibilities that it willingly sacrifices its identity on the altar of political correctness? It is not just Capcom at fault here. They are merely one player in a much larger drama, where gaming journalists, themselves often out of touch with the community they claim to represent, fuel the fires of this moralistic crusade. The very individuals who should be champions of artistic freedom have become its oppressors, branding any pushback as problematic or regressive. They wield their influence not in defense of creativity, but in service to an agenda that seeks to homogenize all art into a safe, unchallenging slurry of mediocrity. In the end, we, the gamers, hold the power. As Capcom bends the knee to these agenda pushing forces, we must make a stand. Either we refuse to support these gutted, lifeless remakes, or we accept that the games we once loved will be forever lost to this creeping wave of censorship. Capcom, heed this warning. You may continue to bend to the will of those who do not care about your games, but the fans who truly love them will take their money elsewhere. The choice, ultimately, is yours.